October 26, 1942. Dawn breaks over the churning waters of the Santa Cruz Islands, where the horizon pulses with the thunder of distant explosions. Aboard the USS Enterprise, sailors scramble across the flight deck, the salt spray whipping their faces as Grumman F-4F Wildcats roar to life, their propellers slicing through the humid Pacific air. You can almost hear the deck plates groan under the weight of urgency. Feel the vibration of the massive carrier slicing through swells at 30 knots. Alarms blare, enemy sighted. In the ready room below, pilots like Lieutenant Commander James Flatley grip their charts, hearts pounding, knowing this could be the day the Big E proves her mettle or sinks into oblivion. Far across the waves, in the flag bridge of the Japanese carrier Shakaku, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto's staff pores over intercepted reports. Laughter echoes sharp, derisive. That American tin can? One captain sneers, pointing at the map where Enterprise is marked. The USS Enterprise? She's nothing but a floating target, fragile as a child's toy in our seas. Yamamoto himself, the architect of Pearl Harbor, nods with a grim smile, his mind already envisioning her hull splintered by HUD-3A dive bombers. They've heard the rumors. The Enterprise, CV-6, a Yorktown-class carrier launched in 1936, displacing 20,000 tons with a crew of over 2,000, but to them, she's just another symbol of American overreach. Mocked in Tokyo war rooms as the tin can that dares challenge the Imperial Japanese Navy's supremacy, yet on the Enterprise, Captain Osborne Hardison barks orders from the bridge, his voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. All hands to battle stations. Launch the cap. The combat air patrol surges skyward, Wildcats climbing to intercept the incoming wave of Zeros and Vals and sign Robert Bob Shaw. A young gunner mans his .50 caliber mount, sweat beading on his brow as he scans the skies. The first enemy planes appear as specks, growing into screaming death dives. Bombs whistle down, detonating in geysers of foam perilously close to the hull. One strikes amidships, a deafening roar, flames licking the deck as damage control teams in asbestos suits rush in with hoses, battling the inferno. This isn't just a skirmish. It's the Battle of the Santa Cruz Islands, where the Enterprise stands as the linchpin of Task Force 61 under Rear Admiral Thomas Kincaid. She's already a veteran, surviving Pearl Harbor by sheer luck, having been at sea delivering planes to Wake Island when the bombs fell on December 7, 1941. Now, she's the only operational U.S. carrier left in the Pacific after Hornet and Lexington's losses. The Japanese know it. That's why they target her relentlessly. But as the smoke clears from that first hit, the crew's resolve hardens. Welders and carpenters swarm the damage, patching holes with whatever scrap they can find, while below decks, machinists' mates like Chief Petty Officer William Bill Smith improvise repairs on steam lines ruptured by the blast. The mockery from Yamamoto's camp feels worlds away, but it's the fuel that ignites American grit. How could they know? The Enterprise isn't just steel and rivets. She's a living beast, her engines throbbing with Radar 3350 radials powering her aircraft. As another wave of kamikaze precursors, desperate dive bombers plunge toward her, anti-aircraft gunners unleash a storm of flak. Incoming at 2 o'clock? Shaw yells, his tracers arcing into the sky, shredding a Val's wing. The plane spirals into the sea, but not before its bomb grazes the flight deck, igniting aviation fuel in a blaze that engulfs hangar bays. You can picture it, men silhouetted against the flames, dragging wounded comrades to safety while others flood magazines to prevent catastrophic explosions. Captain Hardison, unflinching, maneuvers the ship into the wind to launch more fighters. By midday, the Enterprise has absorbed 3 direct hits and multiple near misses, her deck a scorched mosaic of twisted metal. Yet she fights on, her SBD dauntless dive bomber streaking toward the Japanese fleet, scoring hits on Zuiho and Shakaku. The air crackles with radio chatter, scratch one flat top, as American pilots turn the tide, but as the sun dips lower, the damage tallies up. Over 40 dead, hundreds wounded, and the carrier listing slightly to starboard, limping back toward Espiritu Santo for repairs. The crew whispers of ghosts, the gray ghost, as the Japanese will soon dub her, believing her sunk only to see her rise again. Yamamoto's laughter echoes in their minds, a challenge unmet. Little do they know, this is just the beginning. The tin can has bent but not broken. And as night falls, with repair crews working by lantern light, a question hangs in the salty air. How much more can she take before the mockery turns to fear? The stars wheel overhead as the USS Enterprise staggers through the night. Her wounds raw and smoking from the day's fury at Santa Cruz, damage control parties. Faces blackened with soot, hull twisted wreckage overboard. The metallic clang echoing like a dirge across the deck. You feel the ship's list, a subtle tilt that makes every step a fight against gravity, as pumps whine below, expelling seawater from flooded compartments. Rear Admiral Kincaid's orders crackle over the radio. Withdraw to Noumea. Make best speed. But with her speed reduced to 20 knots, the Big E is a wounded giant, vulnerable to any lurking submarine or reconnaissance plane. In Tokyo, celebrations erupt in the Imperial Navy's headquarters. Reports flood in Enterprise hit multiple times, flames visible from miles away. Admiral Yamamoto raises a toast with his officers, their voices laced with triumph. "The tin can is finished," declares Vice Admiral Kiichi Nagamo, the same man who led the Pearl Harbor strike. "She's sinking as we speak," our valves pierced her heart. Intelligence briefs paint a picture of doom. The carrier's flight deck buckled. Hangar bays gutted, her air group decimated. To the Japanese, she's a ghost already, erased from the Pacific chessboard. Propaganda reels prepare to announce her demise, bolstering morale back home where the war's toll mounts, yet aboard the Enterprise, life pulses defiantly. In the dim glow of battle lanterns, Surgeon Commander Donald Doc Miller tends to the maimed in the sick bay, the air thick with the metallic tang of blood and antiseptic. "Hold on, son," he murmurs to a burned aviation ordnanceman, administering morphine as the ship rolls. Up top, yard workers from the repair ship USS Vestal, who had patched her after earlier scrapes, now improvise with whatever's at hand, steel plates welded over craters, electrical cables rerouted around shattered conduits. Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Herschel Pete Peterson oversees the boiler rooms, where steam leaks hiss like vipers, his team sealing breaches to coax more power from the turbines. By November, she limps into Pearl Harbor for a full overhaul. Her arrival a secret shrouded in blackout conditions. Drydock workers swarm her like ants on a fallen log, arc welders flashing in the Hawaiian night. The damage is staggering. A 250-pound bomb had penetrated 3 decks, detonating in the forward elevator pit, killing dozens instantly. Another had exploded in the hangar, igniting ready ammunition. But the crew's training pays off, watertight doors held, fire mains surged. Rear Admiral William Boole Halsey, now commanding South Pacific Forces, visits the yard, his bulldog jaw set. "Get her back out there," he growls to the shipyard boss. "She's our only flat top left." Weeks blur into a frenzy of reconstruction. New armor plating reinforces vulnerable spots. Upgraded 5-inch 38 caliber guns bristle along her sides, and her air group replenishes with fresh Grumman F-6F Hellcats, faster, tougher than the old Wildcats. Pilots like Lieutenant J.G. Alex Vrachu train relentlessly on nearby fields, practicing strafing runs that will soon humble Zero pilots. The Japanese, meanwhile, cling to their illusion. Recon photos misinterpreted, radio intercepts faked, Enterprise vanishes from their scopes, presumed lost. Whispers in Yamamoto's circle turn to overconfidence. With her gone, Guadalcanal is ours. But as Christmas approaches, the Big E slips out of Pearl under cover of darkness. Her hull repainted in Measure 21 camouflage, a spectral blue-gray that blends with the sea. Captain Hardison, promoted for his valor, hands over to Captain Samuel Sam Ginder, who steers her south toward the Solomons. The crew, a mix of veterans and greenhorns, shares stories in the mess hall's tales of the Doolittle raid earlier that year, when B-25s launched from her deck to bomb Tokyo, a daring slap that had first stung Japanese pride. Now they're hungry for more. En route intelligence trickles in, Japanese reinforcements massing for Guadalcanal. The Enterprise joins Task Force 67, her radar scopes sweeping for threats. On November 13, 1942, the call comes: enemy battleships approaching Ironbotam Sound. All pilots to ready rooms. The deck crew hustles, arming SBDs with 1,000-pounders. As the first stars fade, her planes lift off into the Pragan murk. Vectoring toward the Japanese heavy cruiser Kinugasa and battleship Haie, bombs rain down. Torpedo streak Haie, crippled, becomes the first battleship sunk by air power alone. The Japanese reel. Spotter planes report back, "Impossible, the Tinkan lives." Nagumo's face pales. Yamamoto demands confirmation. How? Their bombs had doomed her, or so they thought. But as explosions light the horizon, the Enterprise presses on, her guns thundering in surface actions that night. Shells from Japanese destroyers whistle overhead, one clipping her island structure, showering sparks. Damaged teams race again, but the ship holds. By dawn, the naval battle of Guadalcanal turns decisively Allied, the Japanese fleet retreating in disarray. Still, the cost mounts: more dead, more repairs needed. As she withdraws once more, patched but proud, the crew senses a shift. The mockery from afar begins to crack, whispers of the gray ghost spreading through enemy ranks. She's not just surviving. She's haunting them. But with the war escalating toward the Philippines, greater trials loom, trials that will test her to the breaking point, where divine winds themselves will seek her end. Moonlight glints off the repaired flight deck as the USS Enterprise steams into the Philippine Sea. June 1944, her screws churning the warm waters at full flank speed. The air hums with the low drone of patrolling Hellcats, their pilots vigilant against the shadows where Japanese snoopers lurk. You sense the tension in the CIC Combat Information Center, where radar operators like Seaman First Class Harold Hal Jenkins hunch over glowing scopes, tracking blips that could spell doom. "Bogies at 200 miles, closing fast," Jenkins reports, his voice steady but edged with adrenaline. Captain William Bill Sterling, now at the helm, nods curtly. Sound general quarters. In Yamamoto's former command, the admiral assassinated a year prior in a targeted P-38. Strike his successors cling to fading illusions. Rear Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa, commanding the mobile fleet, reviews aerial photos from reconnaissance Bettys. "The gray ghost again?" he mutters, disbelief creasing his brow. Laughter had long since soured into wary respect, but now it's tinged with dread. The Enterprise, presumed sunk thrice before at Eastern Solomons, Santa Cruz, and now rumored again after Gilbert Island's clashes, reappears like a vengeful specter. Ozawa's carriers, including the mighty Taiho, prepare for what will be called the Battle of the Philippine Sea, or the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. To the Japanese, she's no longer a tin can. She's a curse, her presence alone demoralizing pilots who whisper of her invincibility, the Big E. Now flagship of Task Force 58 under Vice Admiral Mark Mitcher. Bristles with upgrades, CXAM radar for early warning, 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft guns in quad mounts, and a beefed-up air group of 90 planes. Her crew, swollen to 2,900 with replacements, drills incessantly firefighting, damage control, abandoned ship. Aviation bosun's mate Chief John Chief Ramirez oversees the deck apes, catapults hissing as they hurl F-6 F-3 Hellcats into the fray. These new fighters, with their Pratt and Whitney R2800 engines delivering 2,000 horsepower, outclass the 6M0s in speed and firepower. Their 6.50 caliber guns ready to chew through enemy formations. Dawn of June, 19 breaks with the wail of sirens. Radar contact, multiple raids inbound. From Ozawa's carriers, waves of aircraft launch, 69 planes in the first strike. Zeros escorting D4Y Judies and B6N Jills, but American radar picks them up early, vectoring Hellcats to intercept. Lieutenant Commander David McCampbell, skipper of Air Group 15, leads the charge from Enterprise's deck. "Tally-ho!" he radios as his squadron dives on the enemy, tracers stitching the sky. Zeros disintegrate in fireballs. Their lightweight frames no match for the Grumman's armored cockpits and self-sealing fuel tanks. One by one, Japanese planes plummet into the sea. Over 240 lost that day, with minimal U.S. casualties. Yet the Enterprise doesn't escape unscathed. A stray Judy breaks through the cap, its 500-kilogram bomb detonating aft, buckling the flight deck and igniting a fire that races toward the elevator. All hands aft fight that blaze. Ramirez bellows, his team uncoiling hoses amid choking smoke. Water jets arc, dousing flames as ammunition cooks off in sharp cracks. Below, in the engine rooms, black gang sailors like fireman apprentice Tony Lopez monitor gauges, superheated steam threatening to burst pipes. The ship shudders but holds course, launching more strikes against Ozawa's fleet. -5 Solomon Islands, Dollars, Dauntlesses, and TBF Avengers from her base score hits on Shakaku. Ironically, the same carrier that had wounded her at Santa Cruz, sending it to the bottom with torpedoes. As the turkey shoot unfolds, Japanese desperation mounts. Ozawa's pilots, green recruits rushed into service, falter against seasoned Americans. Back on Enterprise, the mood shifts from grim determination to exhilarated disbelief. We got 'em running. A gunner shouts as flak bursts flower around retreating raiders. But victory's price. The carrier's deck is a shambles, arrestor wires frayed, catapults strained. Mitcher orders night launches, a risky gamble to pursue the fleeing Japanese. Enterprise's planes groping in darkness with rudimentary radar. By June 20th, the battle climaxes. Submarines USS Albacore and Kavala torpedo Taiho and Shakaku, but Ozawa escapes. The Enterprise, her air group claiming 92 kills, steams on, her legend growing. Japanese radio intercepts crackle with panic. The Ghost returns. How many lives does she have? The mockery is dead. In its place, a chilling respect. But as the Philippines campaign intensifies, a new terror emerges from Japanese doctrine. Kamikaze attacks. The divine wind of suicide pilots sworn to ram their planes into Allied ships, October 1944. Off Leyte Gulf, the Enterprise joins Task Force 38, supporting MacArthur's landings. Alarms shriek anew. Kamikazes inbound low on the deck. These aren't conventional strikes. They're human-guided missiles, Zeros laden with bombs streaking in at wave-top height. Anti-aircraft crews pivot their 5-inch guns, pom-pom mounts chattering. One kamikaze evades the screen, slamming into the forward flight deck in a cataclysmic explosion. Fuel and ordnance, erupting in a mushroom cloud that engulfs the bow. Man overboard! Fire on deck? Screams pierce the din as sailors are blown into the sea. Sharks circling below. Damage control leaps into action. Lieutenant Junior Grade Frank O'Flaherty directing foam teams to smother the blaze. The island superstructure twists from the heat, radar antennas melting like wax. Yet again, the crew saves her compartments flooded to counterlist, temporary patches welded amid sparks. Captain Charles Charlie Ridgway, her latest skipper, maneuvers wildly to dodge follow-ups, the ship dancing like a boxer in the ring. Over 100 dead and wounded this time. The hangar, a charnel house of twisted metal and charred, remains. As repair ships tend her wounds once more. The Japanese high command reels. Kamikazes were meant to turn the tide, yet the tin can endures. Whispers in Tokyo evolve. She's unsinkable, cursed by the gods. The Big E withdraws for refit, but the war's endgame beckons with atomic shadows on the horizon. How much longer can she defy fate as the Pacific boils toward its fiery conclusion? The kamikaze onslaught on the brink of annihilation smoke still curls from the patched bow as the USS Enterprise rejoins the fleet off Okinawa. April 1945, the spring sun beating down on her weary decks like a relentless interrogator. The sea around her teems with the might of the U.S. Fifth Fleet battleships, cruisers, destroyers, all poised for the largest amphibious assault since Normandy. You taste the acrid bite of cordite in the air. Hear the constant thrum of lookouts scanning the horizon through binoculars, their eyes strained from hours of vigilance. Bogies closing from the North Kamikazes! The klaxon wails, jolting every soul aboard into motion. Captain Roscoe Ross Hillencotter grips the bridge rail, his orders crisp. full speed ahead zigzag pattern. In the war rooms of Tokyo, the Imperial General Headquarters seethes with fatalistic resolve. Admiral Somu Toyota, Ozawa's successor, deploys Operation Tengo, a suicide symphony where battleship Yamato leads a forlorn charge. But the real daggers are the kamikazes, over 1,900 planes converted into manned bombs, pilots fueled by Bushido and amphetamines. The gray ghost must fall, Toyota insists, maps strewn with pins marking her sightings. No longer laughed at, the Enterprise is now a prime target, her survival a thorn in Japan's dying empire. Pilots in Kyushu briefings chant her name like a curse, vowing to plunge their Mitsubishi A6M50s, laden with 250-kilogram explosives, straight into her vitals. The Big E, refitted yet again at Ulithi Atoll, bears the scars of Lady, reinforced deck armor to 3.5 inches. Additional 20mm Oerlikon cannons dotting her flanks like porcupine quills. Her air group, now VF-84 Volf-Pack under Commander Lamar Lamy-Poole, fields the latest F-4U-1D Corsairs, their gull wings folding for tight storage, armed with tiny Tim rockets to shred incoming threats. Below decks, the Black Gang toils in sweltering heat temperatures hitting 120 degrees Fahrenheit, tending General Electric turbines that propel her at 32 knots. Damage Control Officer Lieutenant Commander Johnny Harper drills his teams mercilessly. If she burns, you drown it or we all go down. April 11 dawns with deception. A lone reconnaissance plane circles high, then vectors in the swarm. Multiple contacts low and fast. Radarman Jenkins, still at his post from Philippine Sea days, plots their paths on grease pencils. The first wave hits like a hammer. 5 kamikazes breach the destroyer screen, weaving through flak bursts that paint the sky black. 1-0 arrows for the island, its pilot's face visible in the cockpit, a frozen grimace of determination. Proximity-fused 5-inch shells detonate nearby, shredding it mid-air, but fragments pepper the superstructure, wounding gunners. Another breaks through, crashing into the aft elevator with a thunderous boom that lifts the stern. Flames mushroom skyward, engulfing parked planes in an inferno of 100-octane fuel. "Flood the hangar now!" Harper shouts, his voice hoarse over the roar. Foam cascades from sprinklers, men in silver suits charging into the blaze with nozzles spitting white froth. The explosion buckles bulkheads, sends shrapnel whistling through passageways, claiming 14 lives instantly. Sick bay overflows Surgeon Commander Miller, hands steady despite exhaustion, sutures gashes amid the ship's violent rolls. "Stay with me," he urges a dying radio man. The boy's whispers lost in the din. Yet the Enterprise fights back. Corsairs launch amid the chaos, Poole's voice crackling over the radio. Volf-Pack, engage at will. They dive on the kamikazes, .50 calibers chattering, turning suicide planes into flaming comets that spiral into the turquoise sea. One pilot, Ensign Donald Doane McPherson, bags 3 in a single sortie, his plane riddled with holes but returning to trap on the smoking deck. The carrier's guns never cease, quad 40mm mounts pumping out 120 rounds per minute, creating a wall of lead that repels wave after wave. By midday, she's hit again. A kamikaze glances off the port catapult, detonating in a spray of debris that shears off radar masts and ignites ammunition lockers. The blast wave knocks sailors flat, the deck heaving like an earthquake. Abandoned forward stations. Hillenkotter commands, steering into the wind to blow smoke clear. Repair parties swarm welders in masks, fusing plates, electricians jury-rigging circuits under live wires. The toll, 60 wounded, fires raging for hours, but the engines hold. Her speed barely dipping. As dusk falls, the attacks taper, but the crew knows no respite. Night fighters patrol, searchlights probing the dark for shadow raiders. In the wardroom, officers pore over damaged reports. Flight operations halted, half the air group ashore on Guam for safety. Mitcher signals from flagship Bunker Hill. Hold the line, Okinawa depends on you. The Japanese, monitoring from afar, receive garbled reports of flames and lists, fueling false hopes. She's crippled, finish her. Toyota urges more sorties. Through April and May, the onslaught continues. On May 14th, another kamikaze strikes home, penetrating the flight deck and exploding in the hangar, killing 14 more and wounding 34. The Big E lists 8 degrees, pumps straining against flooding. Harper's teams counterflood starboard tanks, riding her amid acrid smoke that chokes the ventilators. "We're not done yet," a soot-streaked sailor gasps, hauling hoses through twisted corridors. The ship withdraws to Pearl for her final refit. Her hull a patchwork of scars, but her spirit unbroken. In Tokyo, the divine wind falters. Kamikaze losses exceed 1,400 planes with minimal strategic gain. The Enterprise's endurance becomes legend, her name invoked in Allied briefings as a symbol of resilience. But as she steams back into the fray, atomic bombs loom over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, promising an end to the madness. Will the Gray Ghost witness the surrender? Or claim one last victory in the ashes of Empire flags snap in the brisk September breeze as the USS Enterprise anchors in Tokyo Bay? September 2nd, 1945, the water lapping against her battle-worn sides like a subdued applause. The deck teems with sailors in crisp dress whites, binoculars trained on the nearby USS Missouri where history unfolds under a gray sky. You feel the weight of the moment, the hush falling over the crew as loudspeakers relay the ceremony, voices crackling with the gravity of empires falling. "General MacArthur speaking," the broadcast intones, and aboard the Big E, men like Seaman Jenkins lean against railings, their eyes distant, remembering the thunder of guns now silenced, on the Missouri's deck. Allied dignitaries stand arrayed, MacArthur in khakis, flanked by Admirals Nimitz and Halsey, their medals glinting. Japanese delegates, led by Foreign Minister Mamoru Shigemitsu in formal top hat and tails, approach with measured steps, their faces masks of stoic defeat. The surrender document lies on a table salvaged from the USS Powhatan, pens poised to ink the end of 6 years' carnage. "Let us pray that peace be now restored to the world," MacArthur declares, his words echoing across the bay to the Enterprise, where the crew listens in reverent silence. No laughter now from the ghosts of Yamamoto or Toyota. The Imperial Navy's remnants lie scuttled or captured. Their carriers mere hulks in Curry Harbor. The Gray Ghost, positioned among over 250 Allied ships, bears witness as a survivor. Her odyssey, from the shock of Pearl Harbor, where she escaped by fate, to Doolittle's audacious raid that first bloodied Tokyo's nose. Through Midway's pivotal clash, where her SBDs sank 4 Japanese carriers, avenging Lexington and Yorktown, Guadalcanal's grinding attrition, Santa Cruz's fiery baptism, the Philippine Sea's aerial massacre, Lady's kamikaze baptism, Okinawa's hellish siege. Now here, the culmination, her presence a silent testament to American industrial might and unyielding will. Captain Hillenkotter scans the horizon from the bridge, noting Japanese shore batteries silenced. Submarines swept away by minesweepers. As signatures flow, Shigemitsu's cane tapping the deck. General Yoshijiro Uematsu signing for the Army. The air fills with the roar of flyovers. B-29's thunder overhead, followed by carrier planes in formation, Hellcats, Corsairs, Avengers from Enterprise and her sisters Lexington II, Yorktown II, pilot McPherson circling in his F-4U, glimpses the bay below, a mosaic of victors and vanquished. Back on deck, cheers erupt as the ceremony concludes, sailors embracing, tears streaking faces blackened no more by soot but by emotion. "We did it," whispers Novak in the hangar, tools idle for the first time in years, but peace brings reflection. The Enterprise's log tallies the cost, 20 major battles, 18 hits from bombs and kamikazes, over 300 crew lost. She earned 20 battle stars, the Presidential Unit Citation, the first carrier to do so. Her air groups claimed 911 enemy planes, sank 71 ships, damaged 192 more. From tin can to legend, she outlasted all, the only pre-war carrier to survive the Pacific crucible. As the fleet disperses, she turns homeward, bound for New York via the Panama Canal. Her decks alive with VJ Day celebrations, impromptu bands, smuggled beer. Stories swapped under stars unmarred by tracers, October 27, 1945, Navy Day in Manhattan. The Big E parades up the Hudson, crowds thronging the shores, ticker tape raining like confetti. President Truman boards, praising her as the fightingest vessel in the U.S. Navy. Sailors wave from the rails, the ship's band playing Anchors Aweigh. Yet beneath the jubilation, a bittersweet undercurrent. Decommissioning looms, her role in the atomic age uncertain. Mothballed in 1947, she faces the scrapyard by 1958. Despite preservation efforts, her bell donated to the new nuclear enterprise. CVN-65. Her legacy endures, though. In museums, her anchors and wheels stand sentinel. In histories, her resilience inspires. From Japanese mockery to awe, she embodied reversal, the fragile tin can that forged victory from steel and spirit. As sailors disembark for civilian lives, they carry her ghost, a reminder that defiance can bend fate, that from arrogance springs defeat, and from survival, eternity. The Pacific, once a cauldron, now whispers her name in waves, a cinematic epic closed but never forgotten.